Hello, Rise. Wow, it has been a really long time since we've had lunch with Gina. I was just discussing with our guest today that the beginning of the school year is a fast moving train. It doesn't feel like that when we, start to plan for the year, but before you know it, here we are looking forward to a very thankful time of the season. So I want to wish everyone um, blessings for this Thanksgiving time of the year. And I hope it's full with family and a lot of thankfulness and gratefulness. So without further ado, I want to introduce our first Lunch with Gina guest of the year. And I'm really proud to have Orinthia Swindell with us. Orinthia is the director of equity and inclusion at Brooklyn Friends School and has been for some time. She is a mother of independent school graduates, right? And is also the director of the Young Women of Strength conference that just happened about 2 weeks ago. Hi, Orinthia, how are you?
Good morning, Gina. I am well. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for the platform that you've created for young women, particularly young women in independent schools, with the Young Women of Strength conference. 5 years?
5 years and counting. I can't believe that we're already at year 5, and it's like every time we have a conference, the young women stop me in the hall and they're like, I'm so happy that we have this space. Every time I hear that, it just lets me know that this was the right decision so many years ago.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's start with the beginning. Why the conference, and then why the Y in women? So women is spelled WOMYN. Tell us a little bit about that.
Years ago, when the school decided to create an office, it was called the Office of Diversity back then. And we decided that we need some programming that focused around women's issues. And we started with kind of like assemblies or collections, as we call them here at the school. And then the person that I worked with at the time said, you know what, maybe we should develop a conference for the women. We went ahead, we did that. And then 5 years later, I'm still here doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And the why in women, because thinking at the time when we decided about this conference was that so many times the world sends messages to women and young women that they can't do anything without a man. Like you need to have men around. Yes, we do need men around, but the why, we took out the A or the E and put the Y in to show solidarity for women coming together and doing things together as women. So that's why the why is there.
Okay. I like it though. It draws your attention.
Yes.
It draws your attention to it. Yes. The Young Women of Strength conference happened about 2 weeks ago?
It certainly did. It did.
How many girls were there? How many young women were there?
I am going to say I still am, I'm still trying to count things up, but there were at least 80 people here.
That's awesome.
2 weeks ago. We had the pleasure of having Miss Michaela Angela Davis.
Yes.
To the conference this year. She was amazing. I'm getting chills just now, just thinking.
As your keynote speaker, and let's remind everyone who Michaela Angela Davis is. I remember, when I remember her from? Wasn't she at one point in time editor-in-chief of Essence?
Yes, she was.
Yes. That was, okay.
When she's done some work with on CNN. I know her from, like being involved in the fashion industry, beauty industry around Black women. She has something now called Mad Free, where she works with young women.
It's called Mad or Matt?
Mad, M-A-D.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
A lot of work with young women. I had the pleasure of talking to her on the phone before the conference, and I felt like I was talking to my sister or my girlfriend. Mm-hmm. I was nervous. I was just like, wait. It was just easy.
Right.
I knew that I'd made the right choice, but seeing her in the space, seeing how she connected to women of all ages in the audience, but particularly the young women, I have to say one thing that really blew me away was that after she finished speaking, and she talked about the idea that as women, we need to come together. We need to understand one another's journeys, experiences, and work together with one another, kind of like a sisterhood. But what blew me away was that after she spoke, there was like a 10-minute break between when Michaela ended and the next segment needed to start. we started late, which was fine. She took time for each young lady who came over to talk to her. There
Mhm.
were like maybe 10 to 15 of them. They just needed to talk, and she took time. She stayed like an hour after the time she was supposed to be here to talk to these young women. I'm not sure if she knows, but it did everything for them to have her undivided attention. There were tears from some of the young ladies. I don't know what they were talking about. I gave them their privacy.
Mhm.
It was just beautiful. She helped to create a warm sense of trust where people felt like they could say whatever it is that they needed to say. She was amazing. She was amazing.
That's awesome. Now, so let's talk about how Michaela and her mad free. That sunk in for a moment. I like it. It's to me it seems as if we're going to throw off the coat of the angry black girl, perhaps, right, or the angry woman. So being mad free. How has that concept that she's working around? How did that tie in with the title of your conference this year, which is reclaiming our time,
Mhm.
okay, reclaiming our time and creating and owning our own narratives. So how does she tie that together?
I feel like she tied that in. Well, first of all, she walked in and she said to everyone that she had just finished at a women's conference, and Auntie Maxine Waters,
Yes, reclaiming our time, Auntie Maxine, love it.
and she said to them, even though I enjoyed being in that space, this space that, was created for us at the Young Women of Strength conference is where she really felt like she needed to be and wanted to be. So, she had us from right there.
Well, yes.
I think it's that mad free and reclaiming our time, creating, owning our own narratives kind of ties together because it's the idea of being liberated from the stereotypes that exist in society around women, what a woman's role should be, whether you should talk, whether you shouldn't talk, how you should dress. Um, I feel like, the words mad free alone for me um, uh, speaks to like liberation, right?
Yes.
Right. And I was just with reclaiming our time. I was just so moved by Auntie Maxine and the way that she claimed her space at
Yes.
that table, spoke up and was firm and said, you know, please stay on task, answer the question. I know as a woman myself, sometimes when I've done that, it hasn't always been looked at favorably, but to see someone, a public figure do it, it was just like, it just blew my mind and how, that one moment in time, how that resonated for so many people, older women, younger women, women in between. And that's basically where that, the theme came from this year. And with Michaela's work, I feel like it just tied in really well together. The idea of being, creating who you are, standing firmly in who you believe.
Mhm, mhm. So there was a lot of diversity among women at your event that could walk away inspired and encouraged by this collective space of empowerment and reclaiming of time. Talk to me about the intersectionality that may have existed in the room, whether it was girls from independent schools, from public schools, the whole, the binary of gender, where were the girls coming from? Who were
Well, basically, what you just described is who was in the room.
they?
The conference was created, it's housed in an independent school, but the idea is to bring young women from across the tri-state area together in one space. Sometimes they come, from further away, which we welcome. And it was interesting because each year when we do that, the young women are able to see that some of the things that they're facing in these different spaces, like independent versus public school or charter school, are similar and sometimes the same. Um, so it's always good to get them together in that way. We also had some older women this year at the conference, as we do every year, like with the chaperones who come in. And just being able to hear like some of the questions that came up around hair, for instance, let's just say, and how people think about hair, like the older generation thinks about hair, how the younger generation. And I felt like it was a moment for everybody to just come together and learn and to hear one another's stories in a way where people weren't like taking away from someone's story by saying, oh, that's not true, or I didn't experience it that way. We were just all listening and just really learning. And Michaela was really great about navigating the conversation as the question and answer period took place.
So there were master classes that followed the opening or keynote speech of Michaela. Talk to me about some of the titles and highlights of the master classes.
Wow, it was just amazing to see so many of our returning facilitators come in. And this year when I asked them if they would come. And I said, I want it to be like master classes this year. Some people were intimidated. And I was like, you did this last year. It was just called a workshop. Come on.
Yeah, well, let's make it a master class this year. I loved it too. It's all about the mindset, right? And perception. Right? They were walking into greatness that day.
Definitely. We had a few this year. We had one entitled, How Do We Live in a World That's Not Ready for Us? Radical Self-Care, Empowerment, and Reclaiming Our Collective Voices. Ms. Erica Jones from Friends Seminary facilitated that workshop, and she used a lot of the work of Audrey Lorde and Bell Hooks.
Oh, awesome. Oh, two powerhouses.
Yes, and then we had a workshop for adults that was only supposed to last for an hour and 15 minutes and ended up lasting for like 3 or 4 hours, maybe even 5, called Where Do We Go From Here? And that was facilitated by Ms. Zinsley Keith. And basically, just asking the adults, we're in this space, we're here with the young women. What do we do now? What do we do when they get back home or, are in their respective environments? How do we build off of the conversations that we're having here today with them when they leave this space? There was a lot happening in that workshop.
Thank you. Thank you for that too. I think it's really important that we're bringing together parents, other thought leaders that are older, right, have some more experience and are the stewards really of the young women that are coming up. And how do we, like Auntie Maxine, create that path for them to say, no, it is okay to reclaim your time. How do we support that? And how do we support ourselves as we work to support them? That's self-care. So thank you for that space.
No, you're welcome. And then one more that I'd like to mention. I mean, there were many. There was one called Womyn and Body Ownership, and a teacher named Danny Clark facilitated that. And when I spoke with her afterwards, she just said, the young women had so much to say in that workshop. And it made me think about the whole #MeToo.
Yes.
That has brought a lot of attention to violence against women. And I was so appreciative that Danny decided to facilitate that masterclass. Her daughter is 5 today, and she always teaches her. Her daughter's name is Nola, and Nola walks around saying, I'm a strong Black woman.
Oh, I love it. At 5, right? At 5? Okay, that's how we do it. Yeah, I like that.
I felt like that was important because for young women, sometimes, they're unsure about some things. And to be able to come together in that space is important.
That's a big one. Our bodies in space, and Ta-Nehisi Coates often talks about that. And who's the Gay? The last name Gay.
Sarah Kay?
Excuse me. Yeah. No, the journalist, the female journalist activist, Roxane Gay, always talks about our bodies just being in such a space of the potential of violence. Like we can just be erased. Our bodies can be taken away. So. Young women in their bodies, particularly in spaces like independent schools where their bodies might even be differently shaped than the majority. What does that mean when, is it seen as something that can just is, or is it looked at in ways that subjugate me? Right? So I think that's an important topic to talk to young girls about as well. I'm excited for next year because, my daughter missed this year because she's at a semester boarding school. And when I saw the highlights of the day, I was like, wow, but guess what? I'm waiting for 2018. I'm ready for that. Are you ready for 2018?
I am. People are asking me, what are you going to do next? I don't know, but it's going to be amazing.
It's going to be good. It's going to be good. And so you're on your way are you going to POCC and SDLC?
Yes, I will be going to PLCC in a couple of weeks. Looking forward to that. I'm going to be facilitating a workshop.
Okay.
A about Black leadership. So I'm trying to get that together.
Awesome.
So I'm looking forward to that.
That's awesome, Orinthia. Thank you. Spread that magic right on into Anaheim. And bring back some stories. Share with us parents in particular of children of color in independent schools, the dynamic work that went on at POCC this year, as well as SDLC. You're taking some students too?
They're not going to be able to go this year.
Okay. All right, but we know that SDLC is a really phenomenal space for our students with leadership. But thankfully, you had that leadership just a few weeks ago with the Young Women of Strength.
Yes, most
so we thank you for that. We really appreciate the work that you're doing, Orinthia. It really matters to us as we look at independent schools to consider for our educational excellence for our children, and also when we're enrolled in independent schools, it's your type of leadership that keeps us glowing and excited about all of the things that we have as resources for us. But this part of social and emotional learning is really important as we walk along as numerical minorities, not minorities, just numerical. Yes. So you provided that collective space in Brooklyn a few weeks ago, and you're going to another collective space in Anaheim at POCC. So have a great time.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you for keeping us in the loop about the great work, and we look forward to working with you and hearing from you again in the near future, okay?
Thank you for your support. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. All right, so Orinthia Swindell, Brooklyn Friends School, Young Women of Strength Conference. Thank you again. Talk to you later. Okay, bye.